Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Pastor Ramon, aka Pastor Ray, and I am ecstatic to be with you all tonight. Listen, I know that we have been gone for a little while, but we are back and we are better. Everybody type in the chat better. Matter of fact, if you're in with us, why don't you go ahead and tag yourself in the chat and let us know that you are on and watching. I see that we've got a couple people that are already on. Let me make sure my volume is down. Please like and please share. What's up, Juwan? It is great to have you on, brother. Glad to see you and all the Wellians out there, man. Oh, so exciting to be back, man. It's so exciting to be back. Listen, this is your boy Pastor Ramon, aka Pastor Ray, and I'm your lead pastor of the Well. And I'm excited. I'm excited to be with you guys tonight. I want to thank all of you guys. I want to take a moment to just thank everybody who has reached out, who has checked in on all of us over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of months. We're excited to be back. Listen, there's been so much going on. And even though we haven't been live over the last couple of months, hey, we've been seen. I just want to make sure you guys know that we have been seen. And how do I know that we've been seen? Listen, because the Well has been really just blowing up all over the place. I've gotten an opportunity to meet up with so many people who have told me how much they're encouraged by what the Well is doing, by what our encounters are doing. And I want to share that with you all a little bit tonight. So, but right before we get started, I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to copy and paste just a few of these places. We were featured in a news article that is part of called the News, United Methodist News. And so that was pretty dope. I'm going to share that in the chat with you guys. And then your boy Pastor Ray here was able to do was able to be on a podcast called Fresh Expressions Florida. So I'm going to share that with you guys too. If you want, you can check it out. I'm putting it in the chat as well. And then we were featured on the United Methodist Northeastern Jurisdictional Conference, is one of the highlighting planting ministries there. And we have also been just noted in so many different dialogues and conversations and conferences. And there's more coming. That's super, super exciting. And a special thank you to the Baltimore Washington Conference of the United Methodist Church, specifically Christy Latona, as well as Pastor Michael Beck of the Path One Agency, who is, excuse me, real quick, guys. We can hear the echo. Sorry, guys. I know you can hear echo. Give me a quick second. But yes, so Christy Latona and Michael Beck of the Path One Agency, good shout out to you. Thank you for supporting us and keeping us afloat. Listen, again, we are so excited to have you guys around. Vanessa, hey, Jawan, Happy New Year's. We missed you. And everybody else who's on, please like this and share it with everybody you know. I think there's some folks also on our YouTube. So, hey, to all the folks who are on our YouTube, I know we have at least a couple of folks on there. And if you want, hey, just let us know that you're watching. Comment and say hello, say hi, so that we know you're on. Listen, I haven't done this in so long, but what is the Well? Just because you asked, the Well is a creative art and conscious awareness faith community. We are a community, y'all. We just want to be in community. Anybody is welcome to be a part of the Well. Everybody is welcome to be a part of the Well. There is no discrimination here. We love everybody, and anybody can use by God to spread a message anywhere. All we about is keeping it real, talking the truth, and spitting as many facts as we possibly can, okay? We're a ministry that unites community, embraces the arts, we love the arts, navigates purpose, and evokes healthy conversation around spirituality, justice, and Jesus. All of our conversations, we just love having a good conversation, but we want to lead people into justice. And Anna, Josie, and Matt, who's lead our justice team on the squad, there's going to be so much more coming out this year from our justice department, man. Y'all will not believe it. If you think that tonight and next week are going to be dope, wait till we get to the third week of this encounter. The God piece is going to be amazing. All right. You all know everything we do. You encounter the Well, become the Well, emerge and share the Well. Those words are synonymous. Encounter Jesus, become more like Jesus, emerge and share Jesus. Encounter love, become more like love, become love, emerge and share love. Encounter peace, become peace, emerge and share peace. We want you to encounter the well, become the community of the well, and then go share the well. All right. And everything that we do, it should lead you down a path. We have a path designated specifically for you. Somebody type in you or me. Somebody type in me. Somebody say me. It's all for me. And that path to the 5 P's are your passion, your promise, your purpose, your peace, and your power. Those 5 P's: passion, purpose, promise, peace, and power. Listen, y'all, everything we do should lead you down that path, all right? Tonight, we are super excited because we have a conversation. We're going to address the state of the well, and we're going to talk about gangs, guns, and God this whole month. We're starting off today with gangs, and we have a fantastic group of people that are with us. It's our squad, and to the fabulous Jackie, who is at Amplify Network producing this for us. We love you. We've missed you. Can you go ahead and bring in our amazing panel of home folks?
What?
What's up, family? What's up, family?
What's good with you, man?
Yo.
How we doing?
Or like I said, gang, gang.
Gang.
We starting off early, ain't we? Okay.
Right. Get your G's up.
Squad is in the building. Listen, can we just start off with let's see, Harrison, can we start off with you and then make our round to the round the bottom? Oh, that way. Okay, round the bottom and then back over to Matt. Just tell the people who you are, what you do with the whale, and what's going on with you. Let's take no more than 2 minutes just to share that.
No more than 2 minutes. Praise God. All right. So good evening, saints, ain'ts, and others. All right. That's good. That's how you're supposed to start all church greetings. I don't care what they told you. That's the one. All right. Want to thank God that I'm saved. All right, no, I'm for real. But it is really good to be back here tonight. It is good to be back here on this first Thursday of returning to the well, man. We have been anticipating this. We have been doing some planning, and we have really been doing a lot of praying about, man, what this next season is really about to look like for the well. And let me just let you know that my name is Harrison. I am Minister Harrison Morrow. I am serve as the executive pastor, executive director here at the well. My job is to help oversee some things operationally and just push us forward as best as can. Support my pastor, okay, my leader here, Pastor Ramon, and all of our amazing squad members. If y'all see me kind of dipping out a little bit, kind of looking down on the phone, all that stuff, it's because I'm in the comments trying to interact with you, okay? But honestly, we do want y'all to like, we want you to comment, we want you to share, we want you to interact back with us, because that is exactly how we build this community called The Well. This is not a lecture. This is not something that we're trying to talk at you. This is something that we're bringing to you for you to come back with us. What I say on Sunday, I'm a talk back preacher. That means I want you to talk back, okay? All right. I'm popcorn and who am I popcorn? Pastor Tate.
Oh man, I gotta follow that one. Okay. No. Pastor Tay, y'all know me. One of the leaders of the well. Following my boy Pastor Ray's lead. Yeah, it is great to be back, honestly. To have this dialogue, to have this back and forth, and to get to just a better place of understanding in all things in life and in scripture, just growing closer in community, growing closer to everyone in the well, those who are not in the well. And just it's just going to be great. It's going to be a great year. I feel like this season is going to be a great season for the well and everyone on it, the leaders, the listeners, everyone. So I'm just very thankful. And side note, if you see a link building for a cure, I am partnering with the National Kidney Foundation. May 13th, I have entered into, I know I'm small, but entered into a bodybuilding competition. And the goal is just to raise $1,000 to donate to National Kidney Foundation. For those who don't know, I've had kidney failure for over 25 years. Within the last year, I've lost my grandmother, my mother, and my father to kidney failure. So it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I hope we can make this as a family and make this a group thing, and hopefully raise some money and save some lives. So yeah.
That's dope.
All right. So I guess it's over to me. Okay. I was gonna make a comment or a joke about Harrison, and being a preacher, you can't never tell them 2 minutes. They don't know how to honor the time. Yeah. Nevertheless, my name is Jordan Dent. I'm part of the fam. I'm part of the squad. I am a member of First Baptist Church of Highland Park, where I also serve as the chair of the Young Adult Ministry, the Plug Young Adult Ministry. I've served in the capacity as a youth leader as well. I am also a squad leader with The Well. One thing we are community, so I could be a member here, but also serve here. So I am a squad leader, and so I'm looking forward to all the things that The Well has to offer this year as we are coming back, refreshed, renewed, and rejuvenated. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation about gangs, guns, God, everything. So gang, gang. Matt?
I am so glad to be back. Thank you so much, everyone, for bearing with us and welcoming us back. It's really exciting to be back. So I'm Matt. I run the Justice Ministry along with my wife, Anna Jelsey. So you're going to hear a little bit about what we're going to be building up to over the next couple of months. But really, this conversation over the next few weeks is about how do we as a church engage with this conversation? How do we engage with... There's all this messed up violence in our community. How do we engage with that? How do we have a conversation about that? And I hope that this can be a springboard into the next couple of months in our justice ministry. How do we deal with that? How do we move forward? So I'm really excited to be here and really grateful to everyone to be a part of this conversation. And Pastor Ray.
Yeah. So, listen, we're going to dive right in, you guys. And I want to start off with a question. I think it's only fair that we sort of define the word gangs. So I'm going to take from the Webster's dictionary, and then we can kind of expand on that. So, like, if you look at the Webster's dictionary, it defines gangs as they have three different definitions. So, one, a group of persons working to unlawful or antisocial ends. B, a group of persons working together. And C, a group of persons having informal and usually social relations. So I guess I just want to stop and pause and say, does that make sense? Do we want to add? Do we want to expand? And the people that are watching there that are on with us on the account, I mean, I want you to put down there too what your definition of gangs is. But can we just, what's a good working definition for us that are on here?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I honestly, if I'm gonna be honest, when I think of the word gang or when I think of gangs, I automatically go to the stereotype of the negative connotation surrounding a gang, which is a group of people in my definition, as I defined it, a group of people that is inciting violence, or creating mischief. Because you can't just limit it to a community or anything like that. But I always I go with that stereotypical definition. However, looking at how Webster has defined it,
I think she's frozen.
Oh, I think she might have froze.
Yeah.
Listen, it feel like it got all of us. At least it got me and her at the same
right,
time.
you got us to the edge, and then just like, all right. But if I could piggyback though, when I think of gangs, it's like, are we talking the noun on the verb, right? Like the entity of a gang has a negative connotation. When we think of gangs, Bloods, Crips, MS-13s. For those who are anti-government, we would say the government. Like a group that has their own intent, whether good or bad, rightly or wrongly, gang. But that's the noun, that's the entity. But then you have the verb of it, and that's ganging together. That's helping each other out. People with common interests helping each other out. So that could be good or bad. You could say the church is a gang if you're coming together doing things as a group. You could say, the government. Some would say the biggest gang in the world is the U.S. government. So it depends on how you look at it. But the gang as a noun has a very negative connotation where, gang as a verb, depending on what you're doing, your actions could mean something different.
Okay. So, and I see that Rhett is on with us. What's up, brother? Rhett says gangs are organized crime. That's what he's thinking. Organized crime. To your first point, Ted.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to partially agree, but I think those three definitions that you kind of gave at the front end, if you could merge them all together, I think that would kind of provide at least a general basis for, how.
Did he freeze?
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost him.
All right, I think I got where he was going. Basically, there's a general kind of consensus here. I think those three definitions really do pull us together. It's so interesting because Tehran, I like to go back to something you said. You mentioned so you talk about like government and all that stuff. So how is the government a gang? And I don't know if I know Anthony Tillman is on, one of the commissioners from District Heights, but he was on our Instagram. But when you talk about government and you talk about that being a gang, how does that work? Why do we say the government can be a gang?
Because they be doing gang stuff. They be ganging. They be ganging up on people. Then also and I saw the comment where it said it's like illegal. I don't consider, like I said, the word gang has a very negative indication, but I don't feel it's only negative based off the actions, right? The entity of a gang is only negative based off of the actions of it. So let's say I claim to be a blood and I do nothing illegal, but I'm giving like backpacks and buying school lunch, like the Black Panthers. If you ask the FBI, Black Panthers was a gang. But if it wasn't for the Black Panthers, we wouldn't have free lunches. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have free all that free stuff for schools and kids. That all started from the Black Panthers, but that was a gang. So when we say it's illegal, you have to look at it, and I think the bigger issue is what about life makes someone feel they have to join a gang. I think rap music, we glorify. They glorify the violence aspect of it. You think of drill music and everything else, but when you get down to the nitty gritty, nobody wants to. You know what I mean? You're in a gang because usually a lot of times because you have to be, and when you make it to a certain point, you glamorize it because that's your life. You glamorize your life. If you don't know nothing, you know what you know. So that's how I look at it. But to your point, I'm sorry I went on a tangent. When you look at the U.S. government, I mean, everything they do is for the U.S. government's benefit, right? I mean, that you know what I mean. So that's gang stuff. That's a group of people with a common interest. It just so happens the common interest is to make our country great again. / not Trump. But y'all know what I was going with that.
Yeah. I want to touch on something that you had just mentioned, Pastor Tay, where you said some people have no choice but to join a gang. And I would also add that some people join a gang looking for that void to be filled that they are not getting at home.
I love it.
They look for that camaraderie, that love, that connection that they're not getting at home. And so, you know, these my brothers, my sisters, my crew, whoever, my fam, whoever is giving me the love or showing me the attention that I'm not getting at home. And so my choice is to be with them.
Yeah.
As opposed to being in the house, because it could be chaotic at home.
Mm-hmm.
This is where my peace is. And while it may not necessarily be, based on what others may view, it may be constructive, But for that individual, that's where they have peace. That's where
everything.
they're getting love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
If
so
I
true.
could piggyback, let's look at the well. We the squad, like gang, gang. Right?
Yeah.
We encountering you encountering the well right now. You getting jumped in, like you know what I mean, like.
I mean, so to your point, Mr. Biggs, Johnny Biggs, who's on, he's going to be with us later in the month. He says, most of the time we only, all we use is the negative definition, just as we did with posse, crews, mobs, etc. Rat says government is a gang because when we think organized crime, because what's the difference between a gang or an organization that helps? That's kind of crazy when you think of government as organized crime. But to your point, Tay, you talk about the well being a gang. So I'm gonna just jump right into the thing that I think is the elephant in the room. I know a lot of people, man. Harrison, I'm gonna look at you and Matt. They talk about the church is oftentimes a gang, but they don't refer to it as a positive way. They refer to it as in a negative way. Do you all do? And y'all who are all about Wellians who are watching, I'd love to know your opinion on this. But how do y'all feel about the church being called or titled or labeled a gang?
Man, I think in a few
Harrison.
different ways. Listen, I was
Yeah.
about to say, I think in a few different ways, man, we've seen that happen. You know, if you think about the particular scripture where Jesus talked about us being, tithing, right? He's talking about the hypocrites. He said everybody can tithe. He said it was not the whole point of everything that he was teaching was not for us to just know fundamentals. It was for him to disrupt a system that people had gathered together on the wrong basis and intentions. And I feel like that at its core is where a lot of churches sit, is that they've come together. So they're following the beginning of Acts 2. They gathered. But it's like the intent, I think, is what differentiates a group from a gang, a gathering from a posse. You know, it's like, because then you also have like the cliques, you got posses, you got all these words that have they're loaded. They're just loaded terms. And in so many ways, they're just not positive because that's kind of where they were birthed from. But we've also, as a culture and as a people, particularly us of color, we've been able to take things that we've been called in negative ways and turn them into something positive. I.e., while we can say gang, gang, gang in a playful way, say it to each other, and it can almost be a greeting. You know, so I think we found ways to make it positive, but in its nature, it is of ill intent, you know.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say,
I think
like when
Matt
people.
was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Go ahead, man. My bad.
No, I think there's something about walking into a church as well, where you know that if you're an outsider, you are not as welcome as if you're a part of the community. And so I think as the church, we have to have this really difficult conversation around, do we want people that aren't a part of our community, a part of our crew, a part of our family? Do we want them to be in our space? Or are we just going to say, you know what, no, like this is our space, this is our Sunday morning, this is our worship space? And I think I don't like the idea as a church for gang, because I think there's a connotation of violence which may or may not be appropriate, and we can talk about that in a moment. If we're sort of prioritizing this definition of a space where people feel welcome or a space where people are excluded, the church absolutely is this space where you are not welcome or you are welcome, and we're not. I don't think we're willing to wrestle with that. I'm sorry, Pastor Tay, I cut you off.
Nah, you sounded a lot smarter than what I was going to say, so it's okay.
I failed to believe that, but carry on.
Right, it's the accent.
Oh no,
Everything
it
sounds
is.
better. Right. Now, I mean, kind of just to piggyback on, kind of what you're saying. When you're talking about the church and like, who's welcome and who's not, that I don't know how to say this. because sometimes you need that space of comfort. Like, I understand it's a church and everyone's welcome, and everyone is welcome. And I don't want to, what I'm about to say, I don't want to make it seem like I like segregation or anything else, but I would give the example of, let's say, yeah, okay. So let's say like a church that is primarily Spanish, and they are their the preached word is in Spanish, and then I come in there and I don't get, you know what I mean, and they'll look at me funny because I'm not Spanish, but the whole, you know what I mean, is that so wrong? Like, is it so wrong to look at me different because this, you know what I mean, as someone Spanish, or even the Korean church where it's in a different language? Like, that's a certain group of people who have comfort in that way, even in the African American experience. I know there's a saying. I think the saying is like the most segregated time is like 12 noon on a Sunday, but I don't always agree with that narrative, just because you have churches that you know, different races come together, but then you have churches where there's a knowing that this particular group of people know what it is to be a black man, or know what it is to be a Spanish, or know what it is to be Anglo-Saxon. And I don't always think that's a race thing or a gang thing. I think that's more of a community thing. So kind of the
It kind of
If
sounds
I
to me
could
like
interject real quick right there, Pastor Ray,
yeah, please.
And just say, man, I was really just thinking about the words that we use surrounding around church, like church family, and small groups, right? If you really think about I'm gonna read Reverend Mother's comment. She says some churches may operate as a gang, but the mission of the church is to disciple. And she says she doesn't think the intent with the word gang is to disciple. I
Exactly.
I
think
love that.
that just like a family, to your point, I was going to mention something a minute ago about that exclusivity versus that inclusivity that Matt was speaking to, even. I think that as Christian believers, right, we are in an invite only space. And I'm trying to be careful of my wording, right? Scripture says whosoever will, right? The invitation is open to everybody. But to be in the church family, you have to accept the invitation, right? So I think the thing about it is that I may have been born into a family. That doesn't mean I claim them. That doesn't mean that they operate like one. However, even in a large family, right? That's the big picture. General, you get more specific. You also have your family groupings. Church family, you have like small groups, because maybe in the big church I'm getting some things, but I'm doing life in these small groups because these
Love it.
small pockets are where I fit in a little more than this whole big system. You know what I mean? So I feel like in some ways we've just found ways to get away from maintaining our big family status in our small groups. And now we've made our big status this one big thing that everybody just can't always fit in. Every church ain't for me to be a part of. It just doesn't fit. Your family may be loud, my family may be quiet. That doesn't make either of our families right or wrong. That's just how we do what we do. But that does not mean other people are not welcome to our gatherings. That doesn't mean I don't invite friends who are from other families, right? And I think that's the difference with the gang and a group, right? A gang and a gathering.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that invitation that is still open.
Yeah.
So I feel like
I
there's
would
this
second
fine.
that.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I just second what Harrison was saying, and then also my mother and I are the same, because ultimately it goes back to what Harrison initially stated, which is that it goes the language, the wording that we use, and you got to think about, the position that when people say the church is like a gang, you got to think about the position they're coming from. And I'm not going to say, I would say in most cases when it's being presented, it's coming from a place that it's coming from a person that has probably experienced church hurt. And so therefore it is definitely saying, yeah, church is like a gang, they're going to jump you. You know what I mean? Or they're going to take advantage of you, or they're going to do some type of harm. So in my opinion, I would definitely say, for someone to say that the church is like a gang, it is a negative connotation assigned to it. But to my mom's point, the church is called to be disciples. So, we're called to disciple people. And so if we is the gang initiation into discipleship, we hurting people? I mean, that doesn't make sense. That's not what we're called to do. So go ahead, Pastor Ray.
So I wanted to interject, right? Because Jawan says in his comment, he says, and the church at times has been violent as well. To Harrison's point, it's always been about the pursuit of self-interest versus the pursuit of God's interest. So I hear you, Pastor Harrison. I'm gonna throw a little bit of a pushback because I think the thin line for me is, and I think it's a very thin line, right? I think you're absolutely right in what the intent of the church should be, and I totally get groups. I think my question is, right, especially with those of us who've been in the church culture, is, but where does that line get crossed? Because I think about older folks, right, sometimes who have their groups, right? But, and I have this argument all the time. I think people get caught up in nurture and traditional values. And then when they do that, when they get trapped in that, they're no longer able to identify when they have switched into the negative away from, right, the positive. So what are you saying, Pastor Ray? So for example, right, like you take older people who are very much like, you come in the sanctuary, this is God's place. So to them, this being God's place means you ain't drinking nobody's latte, you ain't got nobody's snack, okay? And you got shirt and tie on, or completely covered dress. But then little Joe comes to the door, right? And little Joe, and I had this happen one time, has on a scully, right? Or a hat, right? And all of a sudden, you done switch from everybody's happy to, oh, no, he can't come in here like that. Oh, no, what does he think? This is God's house. Ain't no rule in the Bible anywhere, because I hate when people say, y'all young people try to make it. Ain't no rule nowhere that says you can't enter God's house with a scully on.
Say it
But
again.
traditionalists, right, all of a sudden, right, the church has gone from we welcome everybody to now I'm a gang, and you can't step in my gang house looking like that. Even though Jesus rebuked all the Pharisees, right? Even though Jesus rebuked all the Pharisees, because this is biblical. I mean, so I guess my angst is like, when does that line get crossed, and how do we identify when we're part of the problem and we're not being right? We're not being righteous. We're not being the Christians we're called to be. When do we? Because all of us, I'm sure, get to that place at some point. But when do we, Matt? How do we know? How do we know, Matt, when we cross that line? I call him my British brother. Teach us, oh British person. No,
as the token white man on the panel, I've got all the answers. But so, all the time you were talking, I was thinking about, like, what is imposed on us, like what are we told is right, as opposed to what have we like done for ourselves, what have we looked at? Because anytime you look at scripture, you see this inclusive Jesus who wants people to come into this space, who wants people to be drawn to him, who, like, went out of his way to annoy the religious folks who were like, this person is not welcome in our assembly, and Jesus was like, now this person's coming up to the front to serve communion. So I think part of the question we have to ask about when a church can become a gang is, whose power, whose definition of power are we buying into, and how do we subvert that? Because Jesus was probably the most powerful person to exist in human history, and he had no interest in following power structures. And sometimes gangs fall into that, like, there's a person at the top and there's a person underneath, and Jesus messed with all of that, but still somehow managed to have a crew of people that followed him everywhere.
So Tayron, Pastor Tay, we got Jesus in his day walking into the temple when he thought that his father's house was being disrespected. Jesus didn't go in and say, I was going to say, Jesus didn't walk in and say, okay, now everybody, can we please find a way out? The exit is that way. This is not allowed. It says he went in, grabbed a whip, and started whipping. and flipping tables. Now, in today's society, somebody might say, "Oh my goodness, he came in here and acted a whole fool." And we know, excuse me, man, cover your ears. But in the black world, we might say a whole differently. He acted like a you know what. Okay, he came in here and acted like you know what. So how do we find? And I see Mr. Big say, question: is it a certain level of respect that should exist in the church? A lot of folks would have said Jesus was disrespecting the church at that point. They would have said he's disrespecting it. How do we translate that into today? Like, how do we find, Tayron, where we lost that? Because Jesus was, is that disrespect? Was Jesus disrespectful?
Not at all. I think Jesus, and my favorite, Jesus did one of the most G's moves I've ever seen in my life. Bro came up and said, "You think if I ain't want to, I can't get a legion of angels to rock y'all? But I'm gonna take this L. But don't worry, I'm gonna take this L real quick. But I'll be back. Give me 3 days. That's the most G's thing ever. And but even like when I use that slang, like the G's thing ever, or gang gang, or these slangs, it's like I'm not sure. I think Harrison, I think you said it, where we took these negative, or maybe wrong. We take these things that for people who aren't maybe familiar with the culture, we took these things that are negative and we turned it into something, something great. So when we say gang gang, it's not, you know what I mean. That's why I have trouble saying when people say church is a gang. I'm like it. It may be because churches be ganging. Like, we gang together. We are a community within. I think when, and I think sometimes you can have a bad experience with a certain church, with one built, a group of people, and then you put down there the whole umbrella and you just can't do it. You know what I mean? Like you can't. Like I can't say, and forgive me for using you as a token white man, but like if a white man smacked me in my face, a random white man, I can't say you're racist because you're white. You know what I mean? It's kind of
You can.
I know it's a broad example, but like it's true. Like you have certain communities, you have certain you know what I mean? You have certain interactions with people, certain groups, certain communities. As Harrison was saying, different families. Like I have a really big family. One side I don't mess with so much, the other side I love. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. And yeah.
I wanna just, before anybody else, I wanna, Rhett says this amazing line. He says, Rhett says Jesus was disrespectful to tradition, but what righteous is spirit. His intent was always aligned with the will of God, not the will of man. I love that. I love that. Jordan, how does that make you feel? What Rhett just said?
I agree with it. And I guess the other thing that we forget is Jesus was human too. So we forget that we can get emotional. We tap into those emotions and those feelings. And I'm pretty sure all of us on this live right now have had moments where we wanted to flip a table. I know I have. I'll be the first to admit that. But I always have to remember, and again to his point, remember, God's will. Yes, I may get caught up. God forgive me. I repent. Please forgive me. I repent. I don't want to do that again. Help me. Help me get back in alignment with your will. Because that's just how we are. And so I think it's forgotten. And again, I also feel like certain traditions were birthed out of oppression, for fear of what our community could become. And so there are certain things that me personally, and I say me personally, do your own research. I'm always going to push for you to do your own research. But I feel like for me personally, there are some things that may have been shared out of fear. And so doing the necessary research to be able to understand where that tradition came from, why it was even created, and being able to really truly get to the root of, you know, something, the concept, will be able to, transition the thought process. Perfect example. I will be the first to roll up in a church with some distressed jeans, t-shirts, and some J's. My squad family know that. Y'all know that about me. And if I'm gonna be honest, I want somebody to say something to me about it because I am coming to the church as I am internally,
Mhm.
not externally. I'm coming to have my heart. I'm coming with a pure heart. I'm coming to hear a word from God. I'm coming to, have fellowship with other believers in the congregation with me. I'm coming to serve. I'm coming to make sure that God, lays on me a refreshing to be able to go out and do the work that He has called me to do. So what I have on externally don't have anything to do with what I got going on internally. And so I think that is forgotten. I think the idea is that, coming to church in your Sunday's best, if we think about it, back then, the Black community didn't have enough money to be able to buy what was considered as nice things. And so when they did, they wore their Sunday's best, which was dresses and slacks
Mhm.
and things like that. That was their nice things. And so that has since carried on to modern day. Although my jeans may look a mess, or as my grandmother say, raggedy, this is what I consider a nice pair of jeans. Although my t-shirt may have a character or words on it, this is a nice thing. This may be the best thing I got. A stripper may come to the altar and a dress that she wore last night leaving at her job. That may have been the nice thing, but at least she's at the altar. And so I think there are some traditions that have been birthed from fear, oppression that need to be debunked, or we need to educate our church a little bit better to be able to help people to understand, how the church community is as well as what they're called to do. So I'm gonna get off my
Right.
soapbox now.
Yeah, no, I think that's good, JD. As I think about church and Rhett, I heard you. I know we've taken a moment to focus in on church. I want to expand this out a little bit more again. Um, and listen, I'm about to get jumped, and I don't want to get jumped. Nobody on here is gonna jump me, but I think there's some people watching that might jump me after this question. We talk about church and Butterfly. I see you. Good to see you, Butterfly. Thanks for being on. Um,
Butterfly.
but let's talk
Butterfly
about
free.
church, and this is to the white, black, and black experience, both fraternities and sororities. I wonder, do we find the fraternities and sororities, and how do we see also Republican and Democrat? I know those are two separate things, but can we say that there is an element there in either one of those where we can identify the term gang, as we call it, in the negative connotation? Harrison, you're shaking your
I
head.
mean, they was fighting. They was fighting. Not too long ago, McCarthy and all of those folks. They was throwing bows.
Oh yeah, they had to hold
So
him back a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, they was not playing out there
Yeah.
neither.
Well, I mean, I remember a comment. So let's have a cousin who's and he identifies as a Republican. And I remember I was on his post, and I don't remember exactly what the comment was he made, but the comment that stuck out to me was a young lady who said, well, we know that all Democrats are going to hell anyway because they don't have Christian values, especially if they're for abortion where they can kill a baby. And I went, well, she just identified a whole party of people as people that are going to hell.
Right.
And identified a whole party of people who are going to hell for believing the same thing in this one space, but then also being the exact other thing themselves. You just happen to believe differently and now are condemning the other people for believing differently. So how are you differentiating yourself from the same people you saying going to hell for standing on whatever they believe? I'm not saying they right, wrong, or indifferent. What I am saying is something, and I wanna tap on I think, or rather emphasize something that Jordan said but didn't say. She said, I come in there with them jeans and whatever, Jordans and all, I'm coming in like I'm coming in, but with a pure heart. Why? To serve and worship God. I came here to get a word, to have an experience with him. And I think all of this comes back to one word. If we go back to the definition of gang, it's the intent. What is the intent of this, of whatever this movement is, whatever this gathering is, whatever this group is, whatever this gang is? Even to the D9, right? To the sororities and fraternities, even outside of the D9, right? There's a certain point in somebody, I think you posed the question, when do we draw that line of extent? What is that thin line between a gang and a group, the positive and negative? I think it has to point to the intent. That if your intent is to love, to push somebody forward in a positive way, to be able to challenge a system that is not serving the community, the greater good in the best of ways, likely that's probably a good intent. You probably got a good thing going on if that is your goal. If your goal is to do some of those things with bad methods, see, that's also another thing. Because it's not just about I meant to do good, but then I slapped you around to get you there. Yeah, that's also not, because then, right, most gangs, people say, so I think somebody mentioned it earlier, they do offer a space for people to come in and be included, where they're often not included many other ways, which is why most street gangs have so many individuals who feel excluded in life. So many people who are just down, and they kind of aim and target at those weaknesses. Wherein, as the more positive groups and gatherings of individuals are targeting their weaknesses to strengthen them, not to expose them or to use them for their own gain and benefit. Again, going back to that one word, intent. So those same senators and congressmen and all those individuals on that House floor trying to vote in this speaker, I'm not going to get political, trying to vote in individuals that may not mean the best for the greater good, maybe there was a reason to fight. And maybe that's why it took more votes than it has ever in history to get an individual placed in this office that is third, fourth, or fifth to the throne of the United States, if you will.
It took 12 times. 12 times.
It was 12. No, it was more than 12. It was at least 13.
13? Okay, 13. Matt, were you about to say something?
I was just thinking about, like, how as a church we inoculate certain personalities and how that, like, reflects this hierarchical culture. And I think there's huge value in what Harrison's saying. Like, it should be difficult to elect a leader. It should be difficult to, you should have a conversation around who you want to run your organization, around who you want to run. But sometimes churches are so reflective of that Republican politic of, like, we will beat you into submission or we will offer you, the world. And I think we're not willing to recognize that. And I think sometimes we're very keen to put that onto other people. We're very keen to be like, let's laugh at the Republicans because they can't get their house in order. While at the same time, maybe we're not willing to wrestle with, why are the Democrats so willing to get their house in order? Why are these church leaders so able to literally command the people that they're supposed to be in service of, that instead they're in command of? And so I think there's this really messy connotation around, what does it mean? Like, literally, what does it mean for power to exist in groups? And how harmful is that to the people that are in those groups? Or how harmful is that to the people that are maybe not connected to those groups, but know that, to take the Kevin McCarthy example, like, you may think Kevin McCarthy is going to be a terrible Speaker of the House. You're also a Republican. You got two choices. Vote for the devil or vote for the devil in blackface. you got to pick one of the two. And there's no winning, but also a gang compels you to vote for or to support someone that you don't want to be a part of, but also you don't get to have your own voice. Sorry, I realize I veered off on a random tangent.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a value of voice in these conversations that Harrison brought up that we need to be, particularly as a church, more receptive to.
Mr. Big said, so here's two things. Just the concept of the political party is real gang culture. No matter what the party believe or say, if I'm part of that party, I'm rocking with them. That's how people think. And then he says, if my pastor say it, it's law, especially in the black church. I think I want to, there's a place I want to, if people are in tune with us and they're having their own thoughts about this. And guys, if you're watching, please like this post. Hey, share this post. If you're on YouTube, you can send the link to somebody. Say, hey, this is a good conversation. And make sure to comment. If you're on YouTube, you can just share it on your page or share it in your DMs. Instagram, you can always find it on YouTube and Facebook to share. I want to wrestle with these two questions before we close, and that is, how do you identify if you are a part of a gang that is not good intent or has good intentions? How do you identify that? And then how do you shift? Those is a two-part question. How do you identify if I am, and I don't care what nobody says that. Everybody know I don't like Trump. I love Republicans. I love them. I don't like Trump. If I am Trump, and I can't even see how we can say he has good intentions, but you're leading January 6th. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the person that thinks I'm righteous, and I'm a Pharisee, and I'm condemning the woman who I'm about to throw stones to. And it takes Jesus to come and confront me and remind me of my past and say, hey, no, you. How do I know when I'm the Pharisees that are ready to stone the woman thinking I'm righteous, but the whole time I'm stained? How do I know that? How do I?
That's good.
That's a hard question.
I think that's community.
Yeah, please.
I think you don't know that yourself. That's people telling you, like, "Hey, Ramon, you've gone too far." Like, if we're trying to do this, Christian life in isolation, we're going to screw it up. But if we're doing it in community, people are going to tell us, like, no, you've gone too far, or you've pushed this too far. And there's a dialogue there, and I think that's one of the great things about the well, is that it allows us to engage in that dialogue. But you're not going to know yourself. Someone's going to push back on what you're doing.
I don't know. I don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know is because what about those individuals that were using Pastor Ray's example about the January 6th insurrection? What about those individuals that they knew they was wrong and they knew that this ain't right, but they still did it? And they were surrounded by a community, because I'm not going to say that everybody and their mama in that community was like, yeah, no, don't do it, or yeah, go ahead and do it. Like there was I'm sure there was a perfect mixture of people within that group. And there was somebody that said, I don't think that is your best bet. I don't think you should do that. And there was multiple people that said, nope, I'm going to do it, and I ain't going to get in trouble. And now look at them, they in trouble. So I don't know. I mean, I let me say this. I do agree with you. If you are in a healthy, supportive community, I do believe that there are people that get to know you, or that know you very well, that see you strain. They'll be like, hey, you're falling out of alignment. Let me put you back. But I don't know. If we're talking about, and again, I guess it definitely does depend on the definition that we're utilizing and the intent of the gang that we are in. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be, somebody to be able to, hook you and reel you back in. I don't know. Pastor, you was going to say something.
Yeah. Like I don't know if there's a simple answer. I don't think there is a answer to that. Like as far as black and white, I really think that is a gray area. To give an example, what is right, or like what is righteousness? So the conversation we had, you were talking about, Pastor Ray, we were talking about I don't know if you said women or people who believed, abortion is sin, and then you have people who are pro-choice. Both sides claim they believe in, being liberal versus conservative. Both sides believe in God, right? But if you ask somebody liberal, you give them a more conservative viewpoint, they'll say, well, that's sinful, and vice versa. So it's like, who do you believe? You know what I mean? What is the truth? Because I can read a scripture and have a whole different meaning than what you do. So if we're looking at scripture, and that's just one aspect. Like even if we go Bloods and Crips, if I was raised poor in a ghetto or whatever, and I'm a Blood and my rival gang is the Crips, there's a reason for that. From the time you were born, that was in, that was put inside you, that Bloods are right, Crips are wrong. And I'm using a crazy example, but like when you have that ingrained in you at an early age, or just how you live your life, it's hard to say this way is right and this way is wrong. It's, you know what I mean? That it's all about that community and how you were raised and coming into your own. For some people who experience enough of life, they kind of come to their own realization on what is right and wrong. But if you don't have that mental construct, and you're just following along, people can get trapped in that.
Yeah.
I think that's how we get. I think that's how we get to that place. I think when we get to, I think it's so interesting to watch people like Liz Cheney, right? When Trump was on his high horse, and when all of the Republicans were saying, "Oh, we were Trump." I love the fact that Liz Cheney was like, "Nah, I'm not with Trump. I'm a Republican to the core." He said, "I'm Republican to the core," but that's not. I think that's how we see Jesus in these moments, is when people can reflect, right, and say, does this really align, though, right, to Mr. Big's point, does this really align with my morals? Does this really align with what I think I know about who Jesus was? Does this really align with who I'm called to be, right? And you get Liz kind of stepping out. I think this is my thought, that the church has to so often do that. To your point, Johnny Biggs, self-reflection. I think, Mama Dent, you said we have to die daily. I think when we talk about that, and I think my grandmother and I get to conversations all the time. My mom and I get in conversations all the time. And what I tell my mom, especially, I say, Mom, I like that you don't agree with everything that I say, because you challenge me. And at the same time, I challenge her. You know what I'm saying? Because she pushes me on her thoughts and her beliefs, to your point, Pastor Tate, in nurture. It's how we've been nurtured, right? What I believe is a reflection of how I was raised, the traditional values that my family had, the traditional values that my community had. And I take all that in, and it becomes personal to me. And so then I think back to the point, how do I know if I'm in a gang? I think I have to go, even when everybody else is thinking something, I always should be challenging myself to see it from a different point of view. You know what I'm saying? I think I always have to go, what is the other side, and why does the other side feel so strongly about this? And not just go, well, just because they see it wrong. Well, because I think we're quick to go, they're wrong. That's not how I was raised. We used to do it this way. We used to do it that way. That's how we believe, as opposed to, you know what? I hear what they're saying, but maybe there's a reason that other people feel so strongly about. They might not be right, but let me check it out. Let me understand. Let me have a conversation like we do on the well. At least that's my thought. Jody, I know you got something to say.
Yeah, that takes a level of maturity on an individual to be able to step outside of what they in to Pastor Tate's point, what they have been brought up in, to be able to identify and say, you know what, let me take a step back and look at the bigger picture. I think it takes a level of maturity on an individual's part to be able to do that. And I guess again, I think I'm going back to the definition of gang and the negative connotation that is potentially assigned to it. Like I think I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying that, what you're saying isn't possible to happen. I think there's a lot of factors that play into a key here, and I think that potentially I think it's still a level of maturity on that one individual to be able to say, you know what, to feel that conviction that something about this situation or this scenario isn't right, and I have to do a deeper dive into why. And as they start to peel back those layers, essentially, eventually they will be able to, get some answers. And I think I'll even push the limit here a little bit. I think in that during that process, depending on what they find, it could potentially lead them out of that gang if there's a negative connotation to it, or if we put it in a positive perspective, it could potentially elevate them to another level within, that game. So that's just my 2 cents.
Man, if I could
Listen,
if I could
I
bring
was gonna say,
something real quick right here. And because listen, something literally came in my spirit right before you started talking, Jordan. I was like, bro, this is like I kept hearing like test the spirit by the spirit. And that was the scripture. If you got your Bibles anywhere near you or can find it later, I encourage everybody to go read 1 John chapter 4, verse 1 through 6. I'm not about to read all of this, but I do want to tap on this because I think it is extremely relevant practically with what we're talking about. I'll be very quick. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, or many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this, the spirit of God. Every spirit confesses Jesus has come into the flesh. Boom, 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 boom. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Little children, you are from God, and have overcome them. For he is who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. They are from the world, therefore they speak from the world, and the world listens to them. We are from God. Whoever knows God listens to us. Whoever is not from God does not listen to us. By this, we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. I think that whole scripture is saying, one, to somebody's point, yes, we have to be patient enough and understanding enough to have conversations around whatever we believe, whether we agree and see eye to eye or whether I'm standing in something that's in disagreement with you. We should be able, as people, not just people of faith, but just as general individuals who want to be in connection with each other, we should have enough patience. And I'm learning this in this season in my own romantic relationship. Being able to sit down and say, you know what? Maybe you're not automatically wrong. You know what? Let me hear you out. Because
Surely
to
not.
Pastor Ray's point, maybe there's a space where you can, influence my decision. Maybe I'm not right here either. That is to say, I don't stand on this hill saying, this is the hill I'm about to stand and die on and plant my flag. Maybe there's space for us to find some middle ground. Maybe we both need to do some research. But I think the one thing that I heard in that verse as well that makes all of this all the more relevant is that you also got to know who you are. You have to
Yes.
have an understanding, because
Yes.
otherwise anybody can influence you. Anybody can tell you anything, and then what? The Bible says a double-minded man. You anywhere and you everywhere. You standing on every hill, not knowing what you believe. So Pastor Ray come and say anything out of his mouth. That's Bible right there. No, brother, it is not. That's not it. But you got to know who you are. You got to know what you believe, and whether we're in a group together and I agree with everything, it's not the point. It's the fact that we're able and patient enough to hear each other out, find some understanding, right? The truth we stand under, and then put it all together, bro. Put it all together in love.
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's a perfect place to end on, guys. Listen, I want to say I appreciate all of you all for being on tonight. This has been a dope conversation. I'm just ecstatic that we have the well back, because I think we offer that kind of conversation.
Yes.
Harrison, I think you rounded this off well. I love your point, man. Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing scripture. Listen, we have a featured artist of the month that we're going to close out on in just a second, but I do want to say this. Look, If you are someone who is really trying to get involved in our community, we are more than just a platform of conversation. We are really gearing up to do some amazing things in 2023. We are going to start having live encounters towards the middle of the year. Matt and Anna Josie, who are head of our justice team, we're gearing up to do some amazing things within the community. If you're just looking to do good within the community, reach out to us. Let us know who you are. DM us or on Facebook or Instagram, or get in contact with one of us who are on the panel if you follow us at our handles, and let us know. Encounter the Well is where you find us at on Facebook. Encounter the Well is where you find us at on Instagram. And our website, which is www.encounterthewell.org. This month is going to be amazing. Next month is going to be amazing. Next week, we're talking about guns, and don't think it's just about guns. Y'all know we always take a little spin on what we're talking about. And then the last week, we're going to talk about God, and that's going to be a mind-blowing conversation with some mind-blowing people who are doing some mind-blowing things. I just want to say mind-blowing one more time because I felt like I should. And we invite you to be a part of that. Is we're doing more stuff, and all the artists who are going to be part of our network, providing opportunity for the artists to be heard and seen. 2023 is going to be amazing for the Well and the Well Encounter. And so Pastor Tay, Jordan, Matt, Minister Harrison, I appreciate you all tonight. Amplify Network, I appreciate you. We do have a featured artist this month. His name is Dominic McDonald, aka Nerd the Poet. He hails from the sunny skies of California. He's actually in California now.
Yeah.
P.S. on a shout out to Brennan B, who could not be on with us tonight. We're praying for all the people down south. There were a lot of tornadoes that not be with us tonight. But back to our poet. Nerd the Poet is an amazing guy who's doing amazing things. He has a book that he's just released. I think he's in California for an early book signing. So we're sending a lot of love to him and all his endeavors. You guys are going to get to know all of the squad throughout the year, who are all so amazing and do amazing things. And we want to get to know more about you because we know there's some amazing people out there. But we do have a role for Nerd the Poet. So we're going to now pause and just let Nerd close us out with some spoken word.
What's going on, y'all? This is your creative arts director of the Well, Dominic McDonald, also known as Nerd the Poet, and I am your featured artist of the month. Happy New Year. Today I'm going to be reading a piece from my book titled I'd Rather Be Called a Nerd, and this piece talks a little bit about the theme of today in the gang territory. And this is called Left Home for the Circus. I left home for the circus. Who still does that? Rebellious teenagers ready to have permission to become adults. This would be our first act. I left home for the circus. I was amazed as a child. No security or supervision, just the call of the wild. I'm here to tell you about my first act, though I would always come back. I left home for the circus, only seeing glimpses with my eyes, silly clowns, animal tamers, walking giants, loud automobiles shooting cannons, bodies fly, one ringleader controlling it all from the side. Yet I would always come back. Back to my act. See, this was a balancing act. I had to walk the elevated line, which I thought I could do because the others were young and spry, but I would always come back. Okay, so I had no choice. Please don't take this for a lie. I had to leave home for the circus, needed to go to school, and I had no ride, so I would always come back. Yet, this was a balancing act because I would have to death-defy Centinela Park Bloods on one, Rolling 60 Crips on the other side, plus bus stop and house right on the borderline, and I would have to come back. But many black boys leave home for the circus. We just want to be free. We just want to have purpose. And every day we leave home to the streets of LA, but we don't always come back. Thank you. If you want to hear more of this, you can find this on www.day8.com and check out my social medias, Nerd the Poet on Instagram and Dominic Nerd McDonald on Facebook. Thank you.
Yo, we love you, Nerd, man. Nerd is a dope man and great individual.
Nerd's killer.
He is going to be doing. Listen, he's gonna be some great stuff, y'all. He moved over here from California and is featured all over the place. and is just on fire doing his thing. If you are an artist in the area, singer, a poet, a dancer, a writer, performer of any kind of way, please reach out to Dominic. We put his information in the handle, and let us know so that we can get in touch with you, and perhaps you'll be one of our featured artists, not only on one of our virtual encounters, but our live encounter and our justice things. We're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. So we love to partner with you. Listen, if you've been moved by this, there are a couple of things. If you feel like there was an answer tonight, if you feel like you were moved to think more about who you are, if you're part of the gang and you're not part of the right gang, please reach out to us and learn how you can be part of a good gang. This type of community is a community we want to share with you. And you can do that at all of our social media handles that we share with you. If you also want to share in the investment of this community, you can give, and you can give in 2 different ways. Text to give at the number 84321, any dollar amount like it is in the picture. Or as we said earlier, you can go to our website and it'll follow. If you go to the last link, it's give. Hey guys, thank you guys so much. This has been a dope time. We love y'all, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out.